Welcome. This is Robert Miller with REM Ag Equipment. Just coming here to make a video for any AT2 new systems that are out there. And if you need help setting up the monitor and the whole system on your tractor besides the physical install, which we got video for that too. But really the monitor, all the settings, and what all you can do with that. So if you have any questions after we get done, let us know, and we'll try to get you answered. But here we'll try to fill you into all the information that I know about the system and how to get it set up and work good for you. Start here with our AT2 display. On the back of the display is where your power button is lit up. They did change that from the AT1s. It was on the top and these are on the back. So we're going to turn it on and let it fire up. When your display loads up, you'll come to this login screen. The first thing you want to do is be around where you can get connected to internet, and you'll pull down from the top and pull down some more, and then click on, pull this top down, and your Wi-Fi is turned on right now, but you'll want to go to the gear and then choose in network and internet, and then choose Wi-Fi, and then find your network that you can get your display put on and get it connected to that. Once you get it connected, you can hit the triangle button here at the bottom. These displays are based off the Android operating system, and this is pretty common for Android to have these buttons. So you kind of hit the back button back to here, and this is where you will, if you have a username already in there, if not, you'll hit the register button and input your email. It will send a validation code to your email. You put it in there and go through the next step and go through registering your device. I'll go ahead and put in REM Ag Equipment's login in here, and we'll get started with that. If you have your username and password typed in, you can hit login, and it'll bring you to our very main screen on here. So on our main screen, we can go through quite a bit of just go around and look at what all buttons we have on here. So at top, default, the line we're on right now, this would show you if we're going through the field how far off our line that we are up here. As if it's to the left or right, it'll read what inches you are off there. If you're connected to Wi-Fi, it'll show you that there. The next one over is how many satellites you're tracking at this time. I'm set up in my house with the receiver in the window, so 20 is actually pretty good for sitting here. Then after you get enough satellites that it has signal, this little green that's looking for service right there, if you're on SBAS, which stands for Satellite Based Auto Steer, it'll be an S, then a 0, 1 through 5 count, and that's how long the data correction has been out there. So, and for PPP, it will show the same thing on there once it gets signal. The next one is your notification center. You can hit it, and it'll tell you what notifications you have on there, and then you have your clock to the far right. Line below that would show you what line you're on. The next line over, what field you're in, how many acres you've done, your productivity, and then speed. If you have a camera connected, you can hit that button. It will bring up the camera if you have one. You hit the X to back out of it, and then this will take it from a 3D view to a 2D view over there. So at the bottom, this would be the button you use to engage your auto steer if you had a line already made in there. This work turns on your recording of your implement. You can set this up 2 different ways, and we'll go through that there, but you can set it up 2 different ways where you can manually turn it on and off, or the recording will start when your auto steer kicks on. Switch would be if you have already lines or boundaries made up, you can switch those lines. You can just choose a different line that you have in there. And line creation is where you go to make a new guidance line and a boundary at the same time if you'd like to. If you want to get out of there, hit quit. The one other thing you can do here is you can, if you're going starting your field, you can hit that record button in the bottom corner, and it'll start recording as your coverage as you're going around the field. People ask for that, and that's one of the changes we made. Okay, so turn the recording back off. Overview just gives you a basic idea of what farms and fields implement everything you're doing right now, and that will show you your location that you're actually at if you're connected to internet right there. So then we have our menu button. We'll go through our menu button here in the next clip. Our next button we're going to go over is our menu button. So when we touch it, it'll take us to our menu. One other big change we've changed on here is you can now change some of your coefficient commissioning settings, your driver for the motor, anything you can change while you're actually in a line. Before you had to back out of the line in the last software. So this is something that's good that they added and changed on here that makes it more user friendly for everybody if you want to change something or the first time that you are getting your display set up. So first things we'll go over is what you need to start with when you are setting up the monitor for the first time. So first thing you need to come in here, we're on device settings. Up at the top right is our driver automatic settings. You'll want to turn this accuracy compensation on and smart approach on. Those are the only two that I would recommend. If you do like it where it only has one line on the screen instead of your multiple lines, you can turn that on, but I like it having multiple things on there. And you can turn on what types of lines you can allow it, you show it to make on there. So our next one's our first one you want to do is go down to vehicle library, and this is where we would do our measurements for our new tractor in there. So you can delete this. So there's this on one end, hit the default vehicle in there. You can add new and make a whole brand new one if you want, or you can start with the default. You can name it whatever you'd like. So if it's 4630 check mark brand, you can call it a deer. Horsepower, you have to put something in there. Model, tractor type, put in there. Hit next at the bottom. It's going to go through these two ones at the top, but you have to hit next to get to them. So next is the parameters, what we're going to ask you to actually measure on the tractor. Very handy that they give you a picture. So the front wheel track gives you a picture of there. When you touch front to rear wheelbase, it changes the picture for you. So from the center front axle to rear, click and get that off there. Front suspension to front axle, not too important, but still put it on there. Next one down, distance from rear axle to where your hitch is, and that would be so your 3-point or your hitch pin, depends on where you put it at. The next one down, your antenna, where you put it relative to center. If it's right in the center of the tractor, which that should be the prime mounting place somewhere in the middle of the cab, but you can mount it off and just tell the monitor that it's in a different spot. So there you'd still be 0 distance off the center of the tractor. So the next one that's pretty important is from the rear axle to the receiver, so how far forward it is. Receiver height, pretty explanatory there. And then turning radius kind of gets some people as this is the total turning radius, not just half. So it's from that outside once you turn all the way to there, and that distance in between there. So then at the bottom you tell it what type of vehicle you have, front wheels, rear, in there. So most tractors will be front wheel steer on there. Next, it'll give you a summary. Hopefully look at there, make sure you put all your measurements in right. You can scroll up on there and get to them. So you hit save. So after you have those measurements done, we can go over here to calibration, and that will take us to our angle sensor calibration. And this will tell us if you need to tell it whether you have an attitude sensor, which is this sensor hooked up right here, where you have it located at, and then what orientation it is in there. We can run with no angle sensor in there, and it gives you some different settings to put in. But if you have the attitude sensor, it'll take you through a calibration. We're not in a tractor, so it won't do nothing to me. But you can run a no angle sensor. We'll switch it to that, and you can change what you're in there. You can hit the little question mark, so we've added that too to kind of help some people, help you realize what you're doing. So that if you're going to run with no angle sensor, it's telling it how many revolutions it takes to turn the steering wheel from left to right. So is what that is. Compensation coefficient, you can change those if you need to. Motor constant time, but you can go down here and hit calibration, and it will actually calibrate itself. It'll tell you to drive between 1.2 mile an hour and 1.8, and it will steer the vehicle back and forth, figuring out how much input it's giving you compared to what it's actually doing. So we'll save that. We'll go back up at the top corner. Next, we'll do our vehicle calibration. And this is where you can, the zeros right now, but when you do this calibration, you're going to drive from 3 to 4 mile an hour in a straight line, and at least 164 feet. It will tell you you're going to set point A. You're going to drive at least, it'll count down from 164 feet to 0. You'll hit point B, turn the tractor around, and then it'll drive itself back and forth twice, and then you'll save the calibration on there. So that's the first step for making this, getting your vehicle calibrated first off. So we'll back out of there, do those 2 calibrations under your vehicle. Our next thing we'll want to do is our implement calibration, and this is where you can add your implements, our implement library, implement calibration. So this is where you can add different implements in there. So default it has in there, but we can hit new, and you can have isobus type if you had something with isobus. Not many things will have on there. So none, hit next. You can choose what type of implement, and it'll change the picture on the main screen. So that's the biggest thing. So let's say that we are just tilling. We can leave the picture as that. So name the implement. Biggest thing is tell it what type of connection. So you have 3-point, drawbar, or up on the front of the tractor. So let's choose drawbar. Let's call it a case, and then 4900 field cultivator. Next, parameters. This is where you'll tell it how wide you are. You don't want, if you want it to overlap some, you can. You can do that also in your guidance line spacing, but I'd rather do implement working with is what I'd probably do. So if you're 40 foot wide, it depends on if you're running RTK, you can put 49 foot 10 and it'll be perfect. If you're running on satellite based, you'll need to add or subtract about a foot off there. If you're running on the PPP network, it's 4-inch accuracy, so I'd take off 6 inches. So let's say we're 44 foot wide, implement overall width, 45 foot wide. So distance between the hitch point, let's choose there, and it shows you your picture. So the distance from there, I would put, like on a field cultivator, I would put back to the middle of the field cultivator. If you're on a planter, I'd put to where your row units are at. So where the working point is of that. So let's say on the field cultivator, it's 22 foot back to the middle. Distance from the rear to the rear, just to make the picture look better, 26 foot. You can put an implement offset in there if the implement turns or pulls to the left or right some. You can choose left or right and how far it is over there also. Hit next. Then it'll be a summary of it on there, then hit save. Then we've added that implement. So the idea behind this is you have this implement library and you can have different implements you can change really quickly, just as easy as whatever you're hooking up to the back of the tractor. So we've got that in there also. So our other buttons on here, so that should get you your basic setup of the tractor measurements and get it driving pretty straight for you right there. So our other buttons on this screen, coefficient commissioning. This is where after you get your first setup done, if you want it to adjust how approach aggressiveness, so that's as you're, we can hit the, so if when you're approaching the line, if it's too slow getting on it or not, you can change that. Online aggressiveness, as once you get on the line, you can choose the mark there too if you want it to drive faster or slower on the reactiveness on the line. Get off there. So you can just change those on there. Reverse, just, and maximum turn angle, you won't mess with any of them. Hit OK if you changed anything. We'll hit back. Driver debugging. This is where we'll, and there's some, tells you what to do in here. Hit the question mark. So the higher the response, and this is something you'll want to set up or ask me when you get where your vehicle should be at. But this also changes when you do your vehicle calibration, so get it pretty close, but you can fine tune it over there if you want. So it does tell you higher the value, the faster motor will respond, the lower, the slower it'll react. So tuning parameters, if you're on a bigger tractor, we should put in 400 on there. Smaller tractors put 200. So implement calibration. You can do this to determine if the implement's actually, if you are moving left or right, the implement behind you, and you can manually correct it if you want to, also to put that implement to the left or right. Automatic. So correction source, this is where if you have different, if you want to use satellite based, you can use that, and you can choose WAS, and it will track just WAS satellites. On the AT2s, we have option, which WAS, the satellite base was about the only thing we had before besides RTK, but the AT2s have PPP. You'll choose that, and then Galileo, and it will take it 15 minutes or so to pull in all the satellites up here. And once we change in between that, it'll take it a while, but you'll see it did change the P up there, and that tells you that you're on the PPP network. So takes a lot longer. It's gathering a ton of satellite information to finally get there. So if you can touch it, it'll tell you please be patient, and convergence takes quite a bit of time. So, and this will go away automatically. If you're on or want to use RTK, the network RTK is for any 4G network. You can choose whether it's in-trip or the other one. This is where you would set it up, either for whatever host or whoever you're getting your 4G service from. Some states have their own free service. You can use that, or if you're paying someone for their service, this is where you put their host name. It's an IP address, whatever port they tell you, the node, then whatever your account name and password to get into their network is. The other option is a mobile base station, and this is, you can pair a code, and that's always a BSA number. It's on the bottom of our base stations. So the base station is a base station that one of ours on there. So those are your three ones you would use. If you're using a AT2, you'll want to use the PPP. It's just more accurate on there for you. Okay, so we've went through all the buttons on there, and we'll go down to field next. So our next button we're going to go on to is our field button, and this is where you can go in and change farms and fields or add them. You can also change this record mode. So manual would be when you actually touch the button on and off. The auto recording would be when you have to turn it on the first time, but after you start auto steering, when you click the auto button for it to steer, it will turn to a darker color, and it will start recording your coverage then, and starting counting acres then too. So probably want the auto on, and then back out of that screen, and we'll go to field. So this is where you can add farms and fields in here. So we can go just start brand new here. We'll add, hit the plus sign at the bottom. Client name, we don't have any in there, so we have to add one. Or if you already have some in there, so let's just call demo. Okay, so you can, if you have demo or default, you can, once you add them, it'll remember them. Farm name is home. Then you can call field name whatever, back 40. Hit OK. It'll save that for us. So now we have different field names over here we can choose from. Under that, if you have boundaries made for that field, you can look at those. If you have task or guidance line, you have underneath that field over here on the left, and if you've done different things on that field, it'll show you acres of operation, quite a bit of stuff down through here. So, but that's what you can do under the field. under that part of it. Our next tab down is our Diagnosis Center. This is where you can, if we have any trouble, we'll probably go in here to the Diagnosis Center. Tech support or I will need usually just a picture of this screen. Gives you the serial number, what app version, what all softwares you're on, and that's pretty important to know, at least know that if we need to do an update or anything like that. Then also the buttons here at the bottom, those are, if we're having some trouble with your display, we can ask you to upload those logs, and you have to be connected to the internet to do that. But if we have any trouble, that's how we can remote look and see what all the settings are into your screen if we need to know if we need to change anything. So next tab over after version is scenario up at the top. This would give us an idea of what kind of what everything's doing. So your heading, pitch angle, latitude, longitude, Wi-Fi signal, 4G, how much data you've used. If you're on 4G signal, that will hopefully read something on there that you have signal. So the other thing this tells you is if you are ready to use the auto steer. So you see we're on PPP up there and it's still looking for satellites and it hasn't got it fully converged yet. So if you're waiting on this to do that, to get ready, you can come up here and look at your GNSS status. That has to be to 5 before it will let you actually auto steer. So just know that's the biggest thing on there. Hardware kind of gives if tech needs to help you on anything, that would tell you them quite a bit of stuff there. And parameters, this just tells you what all the inputs that you've put in for all your settings when we were setting up our vehicle in there. Okay, so back at Diagnosis Center, GNSS is the next button over there. Pretty neat. Not that you'll ever probably use it or anything, but it just shows you what all satellites it's tracking and what different constellations it's in. So takes it quite a while to pick up all the different satellites is on there. So you can choose different ones on there. Not that we'd ever you need to know that, but just neat seeing that's up in the sky. The last one over there is a troubleshooting manual. It'll ask you to update it, and it will take us not too long. It depends on your internet connection to download a new manual. And this is a lot but it has all of our troubleshooting manual on here. So I would recommend at least downloading it. And this kind of walks you, it walks you through everything. 118 pages of goodness, but it walks you through the login, everything on there. But so just know that it's there. I would probably download it the first time and at least know it's on there for you. If you can't get a hold of your dealer or me or tech support, at least you know you have it on there for you. So our next button down is Universal. This is where you can go and look at if you have a software update or your user information. You can click on there and it shows you all of what just anything about the device you have or who's logged into it. So if you ever, when you get a new screen for me, if it has my login in there, you can just log out and make your own. Otherwise, when you connect it to Wi-Fi, it will have anybody that's logged into that and has internet connected to it, it'll load their farms and fields and lines in there, so you probably don't want that. So if you ever need to do a system update, this is where you can go to check for it. You can update via USB, but via network, so over the internet is the easiest. If we ever need to do a software update, you can check for it and it'll pull it in if you need to do an update. But this one is up to date. Board upgrades, same way. If there's an update out there, it will check for it and let you know if there's one out there for you to do also. So the version's up to date. Add to farm management if you're going to use our online farm management software to keep track of your farms and fields. That's how you log in there to it. Our next one down is our applications, and that takes you to kind of all the extra stuff that I guess it has. Nothing to really control the system, but if you have a smart U-turn or basic U-turn, you can turn on and have settings there if you have it unlocked. That's the only unlock that we do have is for the U-turn stuff. ISOBus, if you're interested in that, you can contact me. Not a lot of stuff here in the US has a ton of this ISOBus built into it yet that isn't within 5 to 10 years new, but more stuff is getting built every day. But we're ISOBus compatible with this. You just have to add another control box. So camera, if you need to A Wi-Fi camera, also we have those. You can add new, it will connect it through Wi-Fi to have a camera put on there too, so pretty neat. The only other thing on manual intervention is when it's doing auto steer, you can grab the steering wheel and tell it to turn off by how much force, actual torque you're putting against it, and how much time it is sensing that. So you need to have how much time in seconds, how many touch times. You can turn that off, or you can, and if you have it off, especially some tractors that have really hard steering, if it's sensing more force back through the steering shaft when you're hitting bumps and stuff, it can kick it out. If you're feeling that, you can turn this off and it won't kick out until you hit the steering button. But I'd first try with the torque on there. Before, in the older software, we had just a slider bar and sensitivity, but we went to how much torque it's sensing. Then it has to sense that torque for so many seconds before it'll kick it out. So you can set that at 3 seconds or whatever you like on there. So it's manual intervention. If you want, we do have harnesses to put out speed. So this NMEA is how you can output speed to whatever other device you would have. You choose what baud rate and what type of signal you want it to send out from here. So you choose whatever baud rate your other system is running on to send signal out, but we can do that with our displays. The other thing, we have easy control. So we have devices or keypads that you can Bluetooth or wired that you can add that will let you have a wireless or wired button to kick the auto steer on and off instead of actually touching the screen. So speed output, that's through wireless at speed output. Data transfer, we don't use that in remote debugging, only if you have a bad problem with that. So that's the applications. Final one down here is system, and this really just goes through all of the different things you can change on the display itself. So the brightness, what units it's in, different alerts. So let's go through brightness, volume. You can change that on here and really brighten it up, but I'd set this for where it looks right during the day, because you can back out of there once you get that set, and you can go to night mode and it changes what everything looks like on the main screen. So it's dark, so it's a whole lot easier on your eyes at nighttime. Some people do like it the way it looks during the day too, that black, but you can turn that off and it'll be back really white on the other screen. The next one over to your unit setting. British unit mile per hour is what most people want in the US. Alerts, you can go in here and set alerts for different speeds. If you're off range, if you're getting close to your headland, if you have headlands made, and then turn alarm. If you're getting close to a turn, you can have a set a distance and it will tell you what that you're getting close to a turn. So some people are used to that, and other brands of auto steer, and we added it to ours now too, that you can customize 2 different tones when you're getting close. So anytime when you save something, hit save at the bottom so it saves those settings for you. Language, probably leave it in English. Technical support is a code that you can put in only for technical problems on the back end of the stuff. When you get all the settings done, you should go in here to this RTK. So once you get everything set up in the monitor, you probably need to come in here and let it do this optimization. If you're already connected to Wi-Fi or anything, it takes that connection all the way gone and you have to start over. So this does take a little bit to do that. But when you're setting it up, once you have all your settings in there and your main measurements, everything like that, it's worthwhile doing this optimize in there. The one other thing that the AT2 has that we need to do is this heading calibration. And it wants, because if you look at we no longer have 2 antennas, we just have 1. So the cord always comes out the back of it. But you will want to do this heading calibration while you'll actually drive, and it will sense which direction that the GPS antenna is going. So it will want to do that for you. Demo mode is where we could actually make it look like we're driving and move the steering wheel here in the house, or if we're at a show or anything like that. So probably nothing you'll ever use using the display. So we've walked through all the tabs on there. So if you have any other questions about the setup or anything like that, you can message us and let us know what questions you have on there. Appreciate your time. So just a couple things that might help you on once you get the screen up and going here. So I'm connected to SBAS, and you can see that it's counting. Once it gets to that where it counts up there, you know that it's connected and it'll work now. Your field name will be up over there. And then, so we'll go, another thing you can do is it's this touch screen. Everybody's mostly used to this. If you want to zoom in or out off of what implement you're doing to see the whole field better or whatever, you can go on here and pinch zoom out and in. Okay, so the other thing is the line creation. So we'll hit line creation. You can go on here and choose what type of line you'd want, either straight line, AB curve, A+ heading, or circle track. You can import your headlands if you already have them made somewhere on there. So you can do quite a few things from this one screen. If you're wanting to record your coverage, I already talked about it, but you can hit that button, it'll start recording for you. And then you can go over here, you set your point A, and it'll tell you the distance you drove to point B. And once you gotta go over 40 feet before it'll let you do B, but you'll set B, and then it'll ask you to save. And you can name this guidance line 2 up here. So that pencil, you can hit that and call it whatever line you want. It'll automatically name it whatever line this is in the name of it. So we'll call it L1. The other thing you can do while you're doing this too is create a boundary. So you can call this exterior boundary or headland distance off of the boundary name. So if you're at if it's 100 or 3 planter passes at 30 foot wide, so you want 90 foot headlands, it would give you a warning when you're getting there. So let's go 90 foot in there. It's an outside boundary on there. Hit OK. So you hit boundary, the record button. You need to come up here and tell it which side of your tractor, or implement on this hand. So either to the far left of your implement, or in the center of the tractor, or to the right hand side of the implement. So it just depends on if you're having the right hand side of the tractor or right hand side of the implement up against your boundary. That's the one you'll want to choose there. It'll then put a line. See that red dot showed up? That's where it's starting to paint the boundary for you. So you'll go all the way around your field. You can also, while you're driving that end of the field, you can do your AB line, make your B point, and get your AB line saved. But you can also do your boundary as you're going around the field to the outside. And still you can have your coverage map going at the same time. So once you drive around the whole field, you can hit that button, save boundary, yes or okay, and then now it's saved that for you. So just keep that in mind if you're doing, well, you can do multiple things at once now to try to save time. So hopefully this video helps setting up your new AT2 system. If you have any other questions, please contact REM Ag Equipment about your new system, or if you are inquiring about wanting to buy one, holler at us too. So I'll put our contact info in the video and everything, and you can contact us on Facebook or our phone number or email, whatever one. I'll put the contact information in the video. Thank you. Have a good night.